So we moved to the defensive side of the ball in the spring, and on offense, not as many losses, kind of concentrated in one or two areas. Defense, all over the place. You had seniors, and obviously they had a record-setting season, led you to an Ivy title. But I know from what we saw at times during the season and what we would see in practice, you've got guys in those positions, and now the question is, can they make the jump to really perform on Saturdays? Let's start at that inside linebacker spot, because you had a pairing in Luke Gutierrez and Rohan Hilton that was the best in the league and really anchored that run defense. And now they're both seniors. I know Mark Fasati got a lot of time. He's probably at least one of the leaders for one of those positions. But you walk away from this camp. How do you feel about that spot?
Yeah, and Mark, last spring probably was equal to, not if it was maybe a nudge better than Luke. In training camp, it was near equal, and Luke, towards the end of training camp, separated just enough. And then as the weeks went on, Luke just was playing at such a high level that Mark's role was significant. He was our best special teams player. And when he got in, we didn't miss a beat on defense that way. Mark's better. Mark is playing right now better than he ever has. His ability, his instincts, his ability to diagnose plays, his physicality, he is really playing at a good level. And I feel real comfortable about how well he's leading our defense from that spot. Tommy Johnson is a guy who played outside for us, and we just play so much nickel. That last year we had Tommy and we had Quincy. Quincy started, Tommy alternated in, and RJ Page, and we were nickel 75% of the time. So we had three terrific players. They were great on special teams, did some other things for us. But other than certain games like Dartmouth, where Tom was maybe was the best player on our field for us that day on defense, he didn't get a lot of snaps. And his style of play, how aggressive he is, how physical he is, the move inside's been a natural one for him. He's really done a terrific job. He doesn't have the agility and the flat-out speed that Rohan has, but he's very similar in terms of his physicality, his toughness, his leadership, all the things that Rohan brought to the table. And then right behind them is a ton of competition.
Right.
Jack Simcox showed up. He's a very physical player. When he hits somebody, it's a loud hit. Eddie Radinsky is coming off an injury and really missed significant development time. And he played a different position. And the last 3 or 4 practices, he looked like a real guy. He really started to look like a guy that's going to be an impact player. And then John Orr has all the physical tools to do it. We got to get him to just play and just rely on his habits and play, not think so much. And Rick Rag is in that Simcox mold, and even Radinsky mold. They are big thumpers and physical guys. And those guys I don't think we missed a tackle in the spring game. We don't tackle a lot and don't do a lot of live, but those however many snaps, man, these guys are on fire in terms of their tackling.
I feel like we had this conversation last year with the cornerbacks, Gaffney and Hill, and they're graduating. The sky's falling. What are you going to do? And then Gales comes in, and Fox, and then Melanson, and you end up with, again, the top defense in the league. Now, Fox and Gales was a first-team All-Ivy cornerback, graduate, but you do have Chance Melanson, so you do have some starting experience there. But obviously in this league, you know how much everybody throws. You just mentioned how much you were a nickel last year. So, what was his development, and then, who else is going to factor there?
Yeah, it'll be interesting in our secondary. Chance had a minor injury during a track meet. He's a really good track runner. And so, he was starting to show, he finished the year playing at a near All-Ivy level. And we need to get him back there, this summer and, during training camp, because I think he can become that type of guy. But it really allowed a few guys to really step up. And, a guy like Phil Frost, who it's typical freshman, the challenges and all the hard things you go through freshman year, he was struggling with that. He has a smile on his face. He is out there practicing. He has his tools are terrific for that position. We started to see him develop. T.C. Schneider's up there with our top work rate guys. He is a physical kid. He works his tail off every practice. He's at the elite level with that. And then Will Johnson's one of those guys that sometimes you say, he's just a football player. It's that, that cliche.
Right.
But he played wide receiver last year. We moved him because I just love how he does things. And we do a skill blitz drill, and he's the one guy on our defensive secondary that knew how to blitz and beat a guy. He's the only guy who didn't play defense. So, he just gets it. And he really, those three guys emerged as good football players.
You lose more than Dorian's production on the field. I mean, you lose 4 years of experience and leadership. And so, you're not necessarily going to, obviously, you're not going to replace all of that in one package. But that production, I mean, you put him kind of back there at safety for 3 years and didn't worry about it. Now, I know you have a couple, TJ Floyd played a fair amount in that nickel position. It's easy to compare him to Dorian because Dorian also started in that nickel position, but not a lot of experience behind that.
Yeah. No, and Ben Ellis was neck and neck with, and not only lost Dorian, Sam Huffman was so steady. He was one of our rock solid guys and a great leader back there. And Ben Ellis and he were neck and neck, and were alternating early in the year. And then Ben suffered an injury, a wrist injury, and missed some time and just never really got back to where he was. And Ben this spring, I thought, played as well as we've had a guy at that spot play. He played, I mean, it looked like Sam, it looked like Kamal Brown, it looked like some of our better players back there, just both the run game and the pass game, and he started stepping up. And I feel like with, again, a lot of these guys, they need a good offseason, a good summer, but they can get back to matching some of the production we had.
Kurt Haluba deservedly, received the recognition that he got, and obviously has to help you feel good about next year, knowing he's coming back. But, right next to him all year was Henry Schlossberg, and I thought he might have been one of the most underrated aspects of that championship season. Again, somebody that you plugged in there for a couple of years and knew what you were going to get and was consistently productive. That middle position in that line is so important, and now you have to find somebody new to be there. I know you've got some young defensive linemen. Anyone who stepped up, that I feel good there.
Yeah, and to start with Kurt, and just like I said with John Lovett, when your best player, a guy who is a top player in the league, a top player in Princeton, these guys can go down as some of the top guys we've ever had when he works so hard and he improves areas of his game he needs to improve. That's what the real guys, that's what the top high-level elite guys do. Kurt's done that. He's a terrific leader of that group, and kind of is the, for our defense, the John Lovett there. Joe DeMarco is a guy that reminds me so much of Henry. And he actually got more playing time early in his career due to some injuries. He got on the field as a freshman and, was a good rotational piece last year. And we moved Joe to the nose. He hadn't played that position. And there were some struggles early in spring. These last 3 or 4 practices, he's not Henry. Like Henry been doing it for 2 years at all Ivy League level. But you can start seeing the comparison. And you can start saying, wow, if he continues to develop, he can be that type of a player, which is a compliment, because Henry was such a solid guy for us. And I feel the same way about Jake Strain on the outside. He can be very similar to Brandon Jones, the high work rate, super strong, athletic type guy. I really feel that those 3 guys towards the end were playing well. Simeon Lane, the last couple of practices, looked like the Simeon Lane, the standard we thought he was going to reach before he got hurt last year. He started coming on. Matt Hampson is following in the Haluba, Strain type way of just unreal work rates. So I feel good about those guys. And, we got to bring our depth along because we're not going to play with 5 guys. So some of those other guys who started to make strides, again, it's going to be critical for them to come in August, late August, and be significant players.